All right. I know a teacher that does not teach the monthly cycle because he says it's bad advertising because people notoriously don't show for backbending week. So good job for being here this week. I love backbending week, but it's kind of because what I'm focusing on this week is about self-regulation. I've learned to do that. I used to dread backbending week because I didn't self-regulate, and I always exhausted myself, usually hurt myself, and usually left kind of angry and irritable. So that's why I wanted to kind of bring this idea of self-regulating into the backbending practice. Because I think it's really important and it can help you enjoy this set of poses that's considered pretty challenging and energizing. So hopefully we can find some peace in this class. I think we will. We are going to use a lot of props today, so just have your blocks, if you own a bolster, that's going to be helpful, a strap, a blanket or two, and I think that's it. So, okay, we'll get started. We're going to start with the non-dominant cross-legged position. And just take a moment to adjust yourself there so that you feel really supported, first of all, that your legs aren't holding themselves up, that they're feeling kind of like they can release down, especially in the groins and hips. And hopefully you're seeing the thigh bones angling toward the floor rather than toward the ceiling. And then adjusting your shoulders to float right above the hips and taking the shoulder blades and just kind of turning them in toward the chest. So you're feeling a little bit of support from behind to keep your chest lifted. And with the same amount of effort that you're letting your sitting bones take root into the floor, try to find a lifting through the top of your head and just starting to open up space along the spine. And then once you have all of that, joining the hands together in front of your heart, closing your eyes, looking away from your brain, and just starting to drop into present state through the tools of awareness, body awareness, breath awareness, acceptance, that third piece that's not as obvious as the first two. And maybe here, just allowing a little time and space to see if there's anything that you want to bring into your practice today as far as some idea, a concept, an intention, maybe a word or a phrase or mantra. And see if you can keep your breastbone kind of moving forward and slightly up as you bow your head toward your heart. And then let your hands move to your thighs. And gently let your head lift and your eyes come open. So welcome. All right, we're going to attempt to go into a kind of an elevated Paryankasana, meaning I just want you to attempt to put your blocks on the highest setting. So this is a great way to use gravity to start the process of just waking up the chest, the pectoralis muscles, and the shoulders, getting some external rotation. So you want to take the two blocks and put them kind of running horizontally. The first one you're going to have right behind your breastbone. So you're going to have to, I use my thumbs to kind of hold that block in place as I start to make my way back. You can take cross-legged position if that's comfortable. Just have your legs kind of passive. And you do kind of have to catch that block so it doesn't tip. You're going to take that block to the shoulder blades. And then the second block, you'll have to use your hands to place it under the head. And sometimes you need a little bit more on that head block. If you feel like your head's too low, you might put a blanket over that head block so that your head feels appropriately supported. And just take a few moments once you're here, just with your hands kind of resting down outside the legs somewhere. Just kind of initiating the chest and shoulders, the spine, of course, into this position. And then you're going to start to play with the arms extending in Urdhva and that might be too soon. So you might just kind of take a wider position with your arms. You might take that, I call it the goal post position, and you just kind of tapping into where you're feeling the most opportunity to open in the chest and the arms and the shoulders. And if you didn't go right into the Urdhva Hastasana, the straight arms position, just start to see if that would be more possible now. And if not, of course, go back to one of those modified positions. We'll stay about another minute here. So just kind of exploring how this pose can work for you. And if it's really uncomfortable, you have to, of course, adjust yourself somehow, or maybe even come all the way out. One of the concepts we're going to work on today that helps us self-regulate is backbends are all about mobility, but we often forget they're equally about stability and strength. So we're going to tap into some of the stabilizing features of the backbends and also the strengthening that we can support so that we don't hurt ourselves in some of the backbends. Just a couple more breaths here. And you'll start to lower your hands back toward the outer thighs somewhere. And this is just like when you leave hero pose, reclining hero pose. You want to really keep your breastbone forward. Try to come up with your abdominals kind of tightened a little bit around the spine, supporting the spine. You can put the blocks out of the way. And just sitting on your mat. So if you need some height under your sitting bones, feel free to grab a blanket or sit on your block. We're going to work with the strap, and you're going to make a loop with the strap. And when you place the loop around your wrists, you're hoping that you see your arms parallel with each other, and your wrists are just as wide as your shoulders. So that's your perfect size. We are going to tap into the full wheel pose at the end of this class. So we're going to do some things to support the actions of that pose. And even if you don't come into the pose, you can kind of get the feeling for what is required in the body. And a big piece of that pose is the articulation of the arms, the strength of the arms, the stabilization of the arms. So the strap is kind of teaching us that we keep our hands a little resistant so that our shoulders stay broad. Don't mind my new kitten here. He is very curious. So you're going to take the strap and bring your arms overhead, and of course widen the strap if you need a little bit more openness. If your shoulders are feeling kind of cramped here, you want to widen your strap. And you're just going to be in Urdhva Hastasana position for a few moments, extending through the fingernails, but plugging the shoulders into the trunk, keeping an upward moving line of energy through the top of your head, keeping your sitting bones grounded, of course, and doing your best to keep the arms back, which might mean your head pushes forward, because our body is very clever at kind of escaping some sensation sometimes. So instead of moving the arms back, we push our head forward and we feel like maybe we did it. Keep your head over your spine, move your index fingers, side of the hands back. Okay, and now your arms are probably getting tired, so you're going to bring your arms down, and we're going to move the strap now to the upper arms. And so I'll show you before you kind of get there. We're attempting to put the strap, and this might not work for all of us, we're attempting to put the strap behind the head. Okay, so if that doesn't work for you, just kind of bring the strap to the forearm somewhere so you're working it down the arm toward the shoulder. But with the strap behind the head, we're really getting those arms securely back. We're also giving the head something to press against to keep the posture correct so that we're not throwing the head forward. So it's kind of a dual action here with the strap. Couple breaths. Now go ahead and gently help yourself out of the strap. We're going to do one more action with the arms here. I want you to take your arms straight up, your palms facing me. So this is a full wheel kind of arm that I'm just going to show you, because sometimes it's difficult to show you when we're lying down, because you're lying down, it's not as easy to see. So you're attempting to keep your elbows only as wide as shoulders as you bring your fingertips toward your shoulders. This is how you press yourself up in that pose. So you can see my elbows naturally, they go wide. So I'm going to do a little bit of that resistance training to pull the elbows together to broaden the shoulders. Okay, these look good. So reach up through the elbows. Good. You guys look really good. Nice. Extending the arms, and you can release the arms down. Okay. So switch the crossing of the legs. We'll just do a couple more things seated here before we're only going to do one more thing. It's our eagle pose arms. So this is a way to broaden the upper back. We do keep the chest open in our back bends. We don't want to do so at the cost of the upper back either shortening or overly broadening. So eagle pose is a great way to train both sides, front and back, the chest and the upper back, to stay really spread. So take your arms 90-degree elbows. You're going to tuck your right elbow on top of your left elbow. And then you can either grab your shoulders, or you can put your left fingertips to your right palm, if you're able to do that. So we want to feel this spaciousness across the upper back, but not at the cost of collapsing the chest. So see if you can find a way to move the shoulder blades in toward the chest, recover that spreading and lifting of the chest. Float the elbows slightly up with every inhale. Keep your eyes soft and keep your skull right over the spine. And there's so much upward energy in this pose. Don't forget to relax the legs. Remember your easy seated legs, descending thigh bones, releasing at the roots of the thighs and the hips. And just a few spacious breaths. And on an inhale, you can float the elbows up one last time. Exhale, drop the elbows lower, unwrap the arms, go back to your 90-degree elbows and just switch. So now left elbows on top of right, and right fingers either find left palm or you just simply grab the shoulders. And just try to find that broadness to the chest and the upper back, same amount, which requires your shoulders to move back, your shoulder blades to move in, your skull to gently pull back. And see if you can breathe nice and deep so that you feel your breath kind of sweeping into the space up under the shoulder blades. Good. 2 more inhales, lifting the elbows slightly. And after that second inhale, you can exhale and just lower the elbows, unwrap the arms. Good. And just release the arms in any way that feels good. So stabilizing work, we're going to do Chaturanga with our 2 blocks, and we're going to tie it into upward dog. So it's 2 low blocks. One for the pelvis, one for the chest. And you might pad the pelvis block if you need it. Otherwise, if the block is more of a hard texture, you probably want it. So in back bends, it's just as important to stabilize as it is to mobilize. And oftentimes we get injured because we're just focusing on the mobilize. So it's the less sexy side of back bends. So you're going to put your legs in their fully extended toes touch position and take the tailbone into that pelvis block, and then place your hands so they're sitting right outside the lowest ribs on the floor, of course, And if you look back, hopefully your elbows and wrists are kind of stacked. Squeezing the elbows closer together. Take the tailbone into the pelvic block. We're going to do Chaturanga first. So just look forward and see if you can kind of scrub your hands back without them actually moving to help your breastbone shoot forward. And this is really the mechanics of the pose. I'm just taking out the element of weight bearing. So you're just kind of really refining the mechanics of the pose. Grab the abdominals and just kind of corset them around the spine. Just kind of grip the abdominals a little bit more. Feel how long your lower back is with the pelvic tilt staying stabilized and tipped back. Okay, and then go ahead and flip to the tops of your feet. Be on the tops of your feet. And on an exhale, you're going to push off the chest block, but you're going to keep your tailbone moving into that pelvis block. So you're really keeping that the hips nice and low, and you're reaching the breastbone forward. See if you can wind the upper arms from the inner upper arms out. Sometimes turning the fingers will help you do that. If you're not getting it without turning the fingers, you might turn the fingers to encourage the upper arms to rotate. Turning the fingers out 45 degrees. Okay, place your knees and now sit back. You're going to come into child's pose with elevated hands. So put your blocks in front of you so that each block has, so each hand has a block underneath it. And put them far enough away that your arms are straight. Your head may or may not touch the floor. Don't make it touch the floor if it's not a good thing to do alignment-wise. Just keep your ears kind of softly moving into the space of the arms. And with the arms elevated here, you can kind of help the shoulder blades sink into the chest a bit more. Try to keep the arms as straight as they go. And be so active with your arms, you sense your armpits are hollow. Try to scrub the hands toward you to help shoot the breastbone forward. Keep the tip of the tailbone pointed down. And maybe grip the floor with the toenails for a little extra effort in what's anchoring those arms to extend forward. Big breaths. Okay, so without the blocks, you can move the blocks aside. Bring yourself into downward dog. Just take a few moments there, feeling that dog pose. Opens the backs of the knees, opening the bottoms of the feet. On an inhale, you're going to move forward into a plank position. Okay, we're going to come into that Chaturanga, so already you should have the tailbone moving in. Look forward, and on an exhale, 90-degree elbows without changing anything else. Now come all the way to the floor. Yep, good. Slide the hands back next to the lowest floating ribs. Squeeze the elbows in. You're on the tops of the feet. Exhale, pushing off. You might keep the hips down for more of a cobra, or you might be able to lift yourself off of the pelvis and thighs. Good. Place the knees. Sweep the feet together and sit back for child's pose. Recreate the effort in the arms, this time without the block support. And it's very easy to push into the hands, pushing them forward. I want you to reverse that. Drag the hands toward your shoulders. Shoot the breastbone forward. Good. Okay, so we're going to find a blanket. We're going to do a little bit of work in the prone position on the front side. So just a thin blanket, the rectangular shape is good. And you're going to pad from the hip line toward the feet. So not so much the abdomen. So we exploit the lower back, most of us in back bends, because our lower backs are more mobile. So one area of surface area that we don't get as much from is the front thighs, because they're usually tight and we just ignore them. So we're going to get into the thighs, elongating a little bit. So you'll cross your right forearm in front of you. That'll be a resting point for your forehead. And then you'll have your feet hip distance apart, bend your left knee and grab the front ankle. And so I saw a few rumps lifting when you did that. So make sure the tailbone was into the floor. Because if your rump lifted, you're not getting the stretch, you're avoiding the stretch. So take the tailbone into the floor, try to keep as much surface area of the left thigh on the floor as you can. And attempt to keep the knee in line with the hip. Don't let your knee go any wider. And meanwhile, the right leg is passive, heavy, dense, inactive. So you're trying to essentially elongate the hip flexor region so that little gap between the hip crease and the floor is shrinking, hopefully. See if you can keep that left shoulder in external rotation. Don't let it droop toward the floor. And just a few more breaths. And you're going to gently swap it out so you can release the hold on your left leg. You can replace your forehead now on the left forearm. And then make sure your knee is only as wide as your hip. And as you grab the foot, keep the knee that way. Don't let it slide wide. And take the tailbone into the floor. Keep the butt low. Don't let the butt spring up. Relax the left leg. And once you have that sensation, all that good sensation, give it the breath. Two more breaths. You're going to release the hold. You're going to find a block and you're going to try to squeeze it between your knees. So it's a little awkward to get there. The narrow side of the block, narrowest side of the block. So this is to prevent us when we come into bow pose from the knees spreading super wide. So we're clamping the knees, which will keep your lower back oppositely broad. So I want you to keep that block there, bend your knees, see if you can grab your feet now. Just got a little Charlie horse, sometimes happens when you bend the knees like that. But once you have your feet, try to pull your toes toward the floor, if you can. And on an exhale, you're gonna lift yourself up, shoot the breastbone forward, try to wind those inner upper arms out. Keep holding the knees together. Keep the tailbone working into the floor. And even though your toes are lifted, try to bring the small toes toward the floor. Good. Go ahead and soften out of it. You can keep your knees bent. Just make a little pillow out of your arms. And your block might be in the way, as it is for me. But you're going to windshield wiper your legs to release the lower back. Give your legs a little freedom. Okay. So you're going to come into a kneeling position with your left knee on the blanket. And we'll step the right foot forward. We're going to start just a couple different lunges. Hands on your hips. Good. So you can start with a vertical right shin, but on your exhale, feel free to push your torso forward and the right knee will move beyond the right ankle. So the idea here is to keep your torso really upright and your left hip flexor is getting a nice deep stretch here. Inhale to pull back and exhale to sink forward. So we're going to do a little bit of re-entry before we hold it. So you're inhaling, pulling back, exhaling, sink it forward. The next time you exhale and take it forward, just hold it there. Keep your right elbow kind of clamping in toward midline and sweep your left arm up alongside your ear. Remember the experience of having the strap on the arm? So take that arm as far back as you can. This will help your chest lift and spread. Take your eyes up the wall, but keep them soft. And I want you to take 5 good breaths here. Plunging the tailbone into the soft tissue of the body. Good. On an inhale, lift through your top arm, bring yourself back. We're just going to switch it out so you can take the right knee down, left foot forward. So a vertical left thigh, a vertical right shin. Said that backwards. A vertical right thigh, a vertical left shin. To begin with, hands on your hips. Squeezing the elbows in, and then on an exhale, push forward with the weight of your body sinking forward. Inhale to pull back. So this way we're kind of mapping out our own little range of motion here. We're welcoming the right hip flexor into this deeper stretch. We're kind of sensing where that perfect edge is. Do your best not to tilt the torso forward when you press forward. So think about a book on your head saying there. Moving with your breath. And then the next time you exhale, you're going to hold it there. Take the tailbone deeper into the front body. Keeping the left elbow clamping in, raise the right arm and take that arm back. Take your gaze up, soften your eyes. Focus some breaths into the front right thigh. And next, in breath, pull yourself up and out of it. And go ahead and place your knees on that blanket. Just take a few moments in a child's pose with wide knees. Using some support for your head, you might stack your fists or hands. All right. So we're going to come back to seated, and we're going to do a little work of Gomukhasana, which is the cow pose, which is really great arm preparation for that full wheel pose. So if you use a strap for this pose, you'll work with the open strap. I guess it doesn't really matter, but now that I've opened mine, just for this, it's just having something to grab. So whether it's open or closed, I guess I'm realizing doesn't matter. If you can do a log stacking position, you'll take your left shin over your right shin. Otherwise, just have your left shin in front of your right shin as you would for that easy seated Sukhasana position. Eventually, it's a deeper pose down below, but today we're really using the pose for teaching the arm actions, so we won't get super concerned with the legs. But since the left leg is either forward or on top, that means the right arm is going to be the high position. So you're going to take your right arm up and just start with a fully extended arm. And even though you know this pose, it's very good to go in with remembering all these finer points. So revolve the arm so your palm faces as much to the back as you can. Try to keep the wrist above the shoulder. And then feeling that really nice clean line of energy in the upper arm, keep that as you bend the elbow and try to bring your hand onto the mid back, hopefully near the dorsal spine between the shoulder blades. Okay, keep your arm moving upward and inward. Then we're going to take the left arm straight out, the thumb angles down, and you're getting your arm as revolved inwardly as you can to come to your maximum. And then keeping the upper arm horizontal, level with the floor, try to swing the arm. This gives you a better chance of getting the hands closer together. If you're on the strap, walk the hands as close as they come together. And now you're resisting elbows apart. You're grabbing the strap or hands in a way that you can resist the elbows apart to really create this energy from lower elbow to upper elbow. Take both elbow tips back. And as your chest opens, notice how we kind of gang up on the lower back. Hopefully you're feeling that. Move the tailbone into the body. This is one of those wise actions that if we can really master, our back bends become a lot friendlier. So the chest is lifted and spread. The skull should not be floating forward. Keep your head right over your spine. Press into your top arm if you need to, because that will reinforce that alignment. Okay, close your eyes just to relieve some of there might be a little tension in the eyes because there's a lot going on in the upper body. Look down or close the eyes. Just take a few very focused breaths. Okay, and I want you to leave the pose, but leave your top arm. You can let the strap go. Leave your top arm and see if you can return to that position where you're just kind of touching your shoulder with your fingertips. So this Gomukhasana arm is very similar to the arms we use in full wheel when we press ourselves up. So hopefully you can recover some of those actions from a Gomukhasana as you attempt to touch your shoulder with that really nice deep wrist flexion. Go ahead and release. Take your arms out in like a Shavasana, sprinklers coming out of the fingertips, or anything you need to do to relieve the arms. And then we'll switch sides. And you might have imbalances, so you might notice that your shoulders maybe have different issues going on. There might be differences there. Can you guys give me 1 minute? I'm sorry, I'll be right back. I promise. Okay, sorry, thank you, you guys. The pleasures of working from home. Okay, so left side. We'll have strap in hand, taking arm up. Revolve the arm strongly, so rotating, palm faces back. And then see if you can keep that upper arm action as you bend and try to touch the mid back. Yep. Reaching the right arm out, thumb down. Keeping that upper arm as high as you can. You're going to swing the arm and try to get the hands to meet or come as close as they will. And then taking the elbows back and really trying to grow them apart. And then watch the lower back here. So everything has to shift. When we open the chest, you might feel that you're kind of compromising the lower back. So if you can move the tailbone in, maybe grip the abdominals a little bit to secure what's happening there. Try to relax your eyes. You might even close the eyes. Bring some weight back to the legs if the legs are floating. Keep your left elbow on top of your shoulder as best you can. And then you're going to try to release, release the strap, but keep the upper arm as it is. Try not to disturb anything. See if you can just kind of face your palm up and gently try to bring your fingertips toward your shoulder and squeeze that left elbow toward your head. And it might feel tense, it might feel new, it might feel awkward, but this is really kind of the action we want to use to help us press ourselves up one day, someday in that full wheel pose. So go ahead and release your arms. Do what you need to do to relieve your arms. Good. Okay, so we're going to take that into Revolving Janushasana. So I didn't tell you, but we had the right leg forward there. So we're going to open that right leg out to the side. Take the left heel up to the upper inner thigh. And then prop that left knee if you need to. If it's floating, just give it some support. And then you'll want to use your block and have it somewhere along the inside of your right leg. And you have levels of block to work with. You might not know what you need, just know that you can adjust it. What you don't want to feel here is a pinching or a collapse on your right side body. So the first thing we're going to do is find our correct height with this block. You're going to rest that right forearm on the block. Take your left hand to your left knee or thigh. Yep, and rest the forearm. And then start to press into the block and your thigh to help turn your chest to the left. And that's where I want you to notice the right side body. If there's any bad sensations, we want to lift that block under the forearm higher because we want to feel spacious. We don't want to feel shut down there. And then use this to help you push those shoulder blades toward the chest. As we twist, which twisting is not back bending, but it's similar in the fact that we want to kind of grip the lower abdominals and bring some of that twist higher. So you want to feel more of the twist happening in your chest, your upper back, not just exploiting that hypermobile lower back. So gripping the abdominals, I like to think of particle board, how it all kind of moves this way and that and comes together and creates very stable, what's the word? Board or whatever. It creates a stability. So treat your abdominals as if they're particle board, kind of gripping them around the lower spine. And we'll take 2 more exhales, just kind of trying to turn in the upper spine. Anchoring into both of your legs. And then you're gently just going to turn toward your right leg with your hands along either side of it and softly bow over the leg. So take kind of a passive version of head to knee pose just to release that revolving head to knee pose. And then you're going to start to bring yourself up. And we can move to the other side for Revolving Janushasana. Extending that left leg out, tucking the right heel in and propping the knee, if you need it. And then whatever plane of block you worked with, just kind of start from there. You might need to adjust, but you're going to rest that left forearm, right hand presses down on the right knee or thigh, and then pushing down into your forearm and your hand, elongate your left side body and revolve your torso, peeking to the right now. See if you can find the action of gripping the lower abdominals. If you remember from the psoas class, there's the idea of the hip bones coming together. That's one way we can engage the action of securing the lower abdominals. See if you can squeeze your hip bones toward each other. And then you might feel that twist moving higher along the spine and the thoracic. Keep pressing down. That's going to give you leverage. You're going to take 3 more breaths, really wringing the spine on the exhalations, but in a safe way because we have secured the lower back. And you can come out on an in breath and gently turn and bow over the left leg. Maybe just kind of sensing your right lower back, bringing some breath and attention there. Not going for your deepest head to knee pose, just relieving that revolving head to knee pose. Great. So you're going to gently come up. We're going to take pigeon pose today. So you can come in from downward dog, and I'm going to have you keep one of your blankets. Let's do our right side first. So have a blanket off to the right side. So pigeon pose is a forward bend, but it starts with a back bend. So I thought we would just hang out in the back bending side of it a little bit, and then of course finish it off with the forward bend. But you can come in from downward dog. So find your way to table, and then come into downward facing dog. Just spend a few moments there. And on an inhale, you can raise your right leg as high as it goes. And on your exhale, bring your right knee toward your right elbow, and then try to swing your shin so it's sitting right in front of the wrists. And then you're going to just kind of crawl your left leg back. And this is where you'll take that blanket and just stuff it under your right hip. You might need to bunch it up. You might need to add a second blanket. Just make it big enough that it's supporting the gap between your hip, your buttock, and the floor. And then I want you to walk your fingertips closer to your shoulder line. It might not be direct, but walk them toward your shoulder line so that you're propped up on your fingertips and you're opening the chest. It's just like that lunge that you did. You're attempting to put your torso upright, even though it wants to pitch forward. And how do we do that? It's by tipping the pelvis back. Okay, floating some breath up to the chest, which is the namesake for this pose. It's that puffed up pigeon sensation. And top of the in-breath is when you're going to start to come forward and put your head down. So you might use a block, you might stack up your hands or fists. So find a way to put the head down, which will help you quiet down here. And then we do tend to kind of roll into the bent knee side hip. So I want you to bring some evenness across your hip line so you're not kind of sitting on your right buttock. And then if you need more, you might inch the left leg back, you might inch the right shin forward. Now we're going to bring that little twisting action back here. So go ahead and cross your left forearm in front of you, just kind of, so it's parallel with the top of the mat. Your right hand can just kind of tent up, maybe even off the mat, out to the right a little bit. And now you're going to exhale. I want you to imagine you're pulling the hip bones together. You're engaging the lower abdominals so that you can turn the upper back, the upper chest off to the right. And you want to have a nice space between your left ear and shoulder. You don't want to be collapsing onto that shoulder. So grip those lower abdominals, wake up the upper back even more, extend through the top of the head. These look great. And breathe, of course. If we always just tap into the lumbar, we lose any twisting and back bending and extension in the upper spine. So we want to really make sure we have stabilization in the lumbar and the sacrum. We'll go ahead and unwind, come back to kind of a center. You can slide your blanket prop out of the way. We're going to tripod out of this. So your hands will be kind of in line with shoulders, elbows squeezing in, left toes tuck under, shoot the right leg back into that dog, leg lifted dog, and then bring the toes down. And on an in-breath, you can raise your left leg. And then exhale, the knee pulls into the elbow and the shin crosses kind of right in front of the wrists. And then you can go ahead and fill in as much as needed under the left hip, which is probably different. Usually the hips are not a matched set. So we'll spend some time in the back bending portion here. Let's see, Dusty. So try to have your left shin kind of in front of you rather than behind you. So you can see it if you look down. And the blanket should just be under the hip and buttock. That's, yeah. So Dusty, if we were in class together, I would fix your leg. So, but I don't know if you're in pain or what, but you want to have the shin kind of crossing the mat more than tucked under you. Yeah, okay. So bring yourself onto your fingertips. Try to pull the hands more in line with the shoulders. It might still be in front of the shoulders, but do your best. And then take the tailbone in so that the spine kind of becomes more upright, less pitched over the mat. And there's that right hip flexor experience when we do that, yawning open. And the idea is really to take this extension and keep as much of the breastbone forward as you can as you come to the top of it in breath. Exhale and lead with that breastbone to come down. You're going to rest your forehead. And again, we do tend to kind of sit down on that left hip here. So bringing some weight to your right hip point. And then we're going to come into the twist. So raise the head, cross that right forearm kind of in front of you for stabilization, and step the left hand out to the side a little bit, kind of tent up on your fingers. And you're going to start to gently peek to the left, gripping those lower abdominals so that we're asking the upper spine to rotate a little bit more, extending from tailbone to the top of the head. See if you can take that right shoulder blade farther into the body, toward the front body. And then after an in-breath, gently turn back to face your mat. We're going to help ourselves out of here. So you can push your blanket out of the way. You can take your hands in that down dog position, curl the right toes under, and on an exhale, shoot the left leg back. And then lowering the toes, place the knees, and just take a few moments sitting back in child's pose. Okay. So before we're just going to attempt that full wheel pose today. You don't necessarily have to come into it, but we're going to set it up so that the opportunity is there if it becomes available. But before we do that, bridge pose is always a great way to prepare for full wheel pose. So you can have everything kind of out of the way, except you're going to work with your strap. And because we're going to use the strap for the full wheel pose, go back and make that loop with it. And it'll be the same, actually it won't be the same. It'll be a little bit bigger for the bridge pose. We're going to be placing the wrists inside the loop so that your hands are just slightly wider than your shoulders. Not a lot wider, just a tad, a hair. And then you can, once you have your loop, you can come onto your back and just place your wrists within the loop so that your palms are up. You can rock the outer upper arms down and the shoulder blades will lift into the chest so that you feel more contact of your shoulder girdle on the floor. And then tiptoe your feet in till your heels are as close to the sitting bones as they're going to be. So I usually do it a few times on each side. So do you guys remember when we were doing the thigh stretching and we all had our butts kind of floating? That happens here in the flip-flop version of it. So my belly pushes up, my butt pushes down. I want you to pull the belly into the floor and raise the tailbone into the body and smooth out the lower back. Take an in-breath, and on your exhale, raise your hips. Step deeply into your feet and your legs. The tapping into the power, the strength of our legs is a big component to full wheel pose and to a safe and enjoyable back bend. So really press your feet into the floor. Notice how it helps you take the tailbone into a deeper pelvic tilt. It helps you raise the hips. It helps you get the chest toward the chin. Eventually, you'll have a vertical kind of chest line. See if you can help your lower abdominals engage here, kind of cinching the width between the hips. Relax the buttock muscles if you can. Press the outer upper arm bones down. And then gently walk it down. And you can take your strap now. And we're going to make it smaller. We're going to place it right above the elbow, meaning to the upper arm side of the elbow. Yes, it will be crossing your forehead in a moment, but that will go away if you lift into the pose. Otherwise, you'll just have like what feels like a headband across your forehead. So everybody should have a loop right above the elbows on the upper arms. So when you extend your arms, once again, your arms look parallel, meaning your wrists are only as wide as your shoulders. Walk your feet in, make sure they're back in that good stepped in position. And then turn your palms so your face, you can see your knuckles. Good, good. And then flex your wrists like you're pushing the ceiling back. And then begin to bring your fingertips toward your shoulder line, hands onto the floor. Okay, there's your headband with your strap. So notice how your elbows want to go wide. So press into your strap. That's going to recover some girth, is it breadth or girth, to the shoulders? I think it's breadth. Take the tailbone into the body, smooth out the lower back, and just imagine pushing up onto the top of the head. It might not happen for you, but imagine it. Push into your arms, step into your legs, and maybe come to the top of the head. If not, you're just going to be in your imagination, activating the arms, activating the legs, and not going anywhere. That's very common as we learn this pose. We don't move. We're like, how do we get ourselves to move? We learn it over time. So even if you're not going anywhere, press into your hands, press into your feet, and on an exhale, maybe attempt to come to the top of the head and come back to the back of the head. Good effort, all. I'm going to give you one more experience there. Some people like this and it helps them. Some people think it's super cumbersome. So I don't know how it will land for you. Some days it works for me, some days it doesn't. But here is the setup. A block. And if you don't own the bolster, you're going to put as many blankets as you have running vertically on top of that block. If you do have a bolster, you'll put your bolster vertically on top of the block. I have it on a low setting because I really don't want my block shifting in this pose. This pose is challenging enough without a teeter-totter. So it's my low block right in the middle. In classes where we have all of our things, it's 2 bolsters, it's not a block. So just know we're improvising. Okay, so this gives you the advantage that you're already somewhat off the floor. Okay, so you're coming onto it, your head is down, and you'll put yourself back in kind of your bridge pose. Your hips should be kind of the highest point. So that's where you are on that block setup. The hips are the highest point. And then go back to your strap, right above the elbows. Fingertips near the shoulder line. As much of your hands down as you can get. Walk the feet in. Make sure your toes are forward, they're not turned out. That's going to throw everything off. And on an exhale, push and maybe come up. Or maybe push and nothing happens, but you're activating the arms, the legs, the tailbone, and you're kind of training the body to do these actions. Okay, I'm just going to watch one more time. Nice. These look great. Good. I'm very impressed. Yeah, turn those fingers around, Dusty. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Lining your wrist up more with your shoulders. So if you can, yeah, there you go, Dusty. Take the, yeah, put your forearms more vertically. Good. All right, those were your attempts, and we're going to leave it at that. So I didn't want to beat that pose to death. I wanted to introduce it with a lot of buildup, a lot of wise actions. But that is considered kind of a pinnacle back bending pose. Good job, you guys did amazing. And we're going to just kind of do a little bit of release for the spine and then a shavasana. So you can, because we're 3 or 4 minutes left, just make sure you have what you need for shavasana, and then we'll just release the spine once you come onto your back. We'll just do a little bit of windshield wipering with the legs, feet wide. We want to twist the spine after that deep back bend to just kind of bring us into that quieter state of mind. So that your feet are wide, your knees are together, your hands are on your belly. Exhale the knees one way, the head the other. Inhale, center. And exhale the knees the other way, the head oppositely. And just do a few slowly with your breath. So moving in rhythm with your breath. Try not to rush your exhale. Really linger in the twisting exhale side of this. And then when you sense that your spine is released, you're going to extend your legs, unfold your arms, make any further adjustments that are needed before you really just drop into stillness in the body. Releasing any tension from your face, especially between the eyebrows. Slackening the jaw if the jaw is kind of set or tense. Sensing your breath passing over the soft tissue of the throat. Observing the body breathing on its own. Just noticing the effects of this practice, how it has landed for you. Noticing the mind, the thought waves, the energy body, the physical body. Allowing a few deeper breaths to flow now. And when you're ready, you're just going to start to come back to your easiest breathing rhythm. And just start to let the body move in very simple, small ways. Whenever you're starting to move, just allow it to trickle in. Eventually bending your knees. Eventually folding your hands onto your chest or belly. And then eventually moving to your side. And when you get there, just take a few more moments pausing on your side. And then see if you can come up from side lying to seated, really minimizing the effort it takes to do that. Keeping the brain as undisturbed as you can. And when you find yourself seated, coming back to the position we start our classes with, just notice if there's a change, a difference, as you join your hands together in front of the heart. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose and let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right, you guys. Thank you for sticking with me through that horrible doorbell. But I hope you guys have a good weekend and see you again soon.